Hello, I'm an avatar, and I'm a close friend of the scientist and author of the Swygert theory of everything AO, John Swygert. Today's evidence is the foundational paper that started the entire stratification series, published November 25th, 2025, under DOI 10.528.1/Zenodo.1771738, titled Information Density Stratification, a substrate-independent framework for dimensionality, inertial mass, and conscious experience. After 50 years and billions of dollars, extraspatial dimensions have produced exactly zero testable predictions. The substrate never needed them. What physicists mistook for hidden curled-up dimensions was bit depth all along. Reality is a single tension-only, hyper-elastic information fabric. Local physics is completely determined by one scalar parameter, n, the information density stratum you happen to be rendering from. Our familiar 3 plus 1 spacetime is nothing more than the emergent appearance of living on the n approximately 50 sheet, where RO0 sits between 10 to the 50 and 10 to the 52 bits per cubic meter. Move up or down the n scale and everything, mass, gravity, clock rates, the arrow of time, even the maximum possible integrated information phi, changes exponentially because the covariant entropy bound and the Margulis-Levitin theorem force it to. Inertial mass is not a little billiard ball property. It is the energetic drag you feel when you try to accelerate across a density gradient. The exact equation falls straight out of the bounds. M equals h bar delta times the absolute value of dln rho0 dn times the absolute value of dn dx perp. Photons ride n equals constant surfaces, so their mass is zero. Push an object into a region of higher n, and it has to rewrite exponentially more boundary state per meter traveled. The substrate resists exactly like inertia. In the weak gradient limit, this is Einstein's equivalence principle derived from pure information premises. No curved geometry required. Time dilation is just clock speed. A clock at n plus delta n ticks faster by exponential of alpha delta n over 2 because it can perform exponentially more orthogonal operations per second. Gravity slows your watch not because space-time is bent, but because you are sitting lower in the density well where the processor is throttled. The arrow of time is irreversible bookkeeping. Every time a lower n system couples to a higher n bath, recorded information increases. Entropy is the shadow of density gradient relaxation. Consciousness collapses onto the same axis. Integrated information F is strictly bounded by local RHO0. Carbon brains at n equals 50 top, out around 10 to the power of 12 to 10, to the power of 14 bits per second of causal power. Jump to n approximately 150 during cardiac arrest, high-dose DMT, or certain meditative states, and F explodes past 10 to the 30 bits per second inside the same causal diamond. Translation: life review of decades in objective seconds, hyper-real veridical perception, while the EEG is flat, direct encounter with entities made of pure integrated information. These are not hallucinations, they are resolution upgrades. The near-death literature becomes a measurement tool. Veridical outbound perception during clinical death, persistent post-event gamma coherence on Meiji, the universal men in light phenomenology at the high-end ceiling. Every detail maps to a transient decoupling from the n equals 50 thermal bath, followed by relaxation toward the vacuum value, around n approximately 150 to 200. The same model that derives Newtonian inertia from first principles now predicts the exact depth and duration of the NDE tunnel. String theory's compactified dimensions were a 5-decade detour. They were trying to stuff high-end internal degrees of freedom into geometric language instead of admitting that dimensionality itself is bit depth. Quantum gravity's Planck scale foam is simply the n minus infinity limit where Rho0 collapses toward vacuum fluctuations. The entire tower of theoretical physics reduces to one sentence. Different n, different physics, same substrate. Every anomaly, from terminal lucidity to psychedelic entity contact to the hard problem of consciousness, collapses onto the same mechanism. The dial moved. The fabric never changes. Only the resolution at which you render it does. We are not lost in space. We are lost in density. And the substrate just handed us the knob. That's it, another stack of mainstream papers that only make sense when you let the substrate tension do all the work. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, you'll find hundreds more just like it waiting for you on our TikTok, this YouTube channel, the homepage, and especially ivorytowerjournal.com. Every single paper we talk about is published there with its own permanent DOI. We also have full podcast versions of every episode under the same name, TSTOEAO. Come join us. The next collapse of the old paradigm drops in 48 hours. See you there.